Hey guys, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're making buffalo chicken lettuce wraps. I love these because you can have them as a snack, serve them as an appetizer at a party, or pair them with a side to make a complete meal. I'm also going to show you how to make my breadless breaded chicken breast, which we'll use in this recipe, but that you could also use for something else like General Tso's or chicken parm, several different options. So without further ado, go wash your hands and let's get started. The first step before we can do anything else is to make the chicken. It'd be nice if we could just buy the chicken nuggets or the chicken strips or something like that at the store, but of course, those have the breading, which are non-keto compliant. So what we have to do is we have to make our own breaded chicken, and this is how we're gonna do it. I know that, I'm not gonna say I lied to you before, but I definitely probably painted a rosier picture of cauliflower and spaghetti squash and those kind of things. But seriously, take my word for it when I say that even if you don't like pork rinds, grinding up the pork rinds to get the crumbs or the dust as we call it, creates this breaded coating that is identical. I mean, to me anyway, it seems identical to fried chicken, and not the KFC kind of fried chicken, but just the fried breaded tenderloins or the breaded nuggets that you've had before that you would use for something like chicken parm or something like that. So today we're gonna do that for our buffalo chicken, and that's gonna be step one. This will be one of the easiest meals you make, but this will be the only part of it that will require a little bit of elbow grease. So what I do is, I actually do like pork rinds. When I first started doing low carb, they were a godsend to kind of replace chips, which I used to eat a lot of Doritos, nacho chips, things like that. So when I found pork rinds and had those either by themselves or with queso or with ranch dressing, they were so good. But I like the lighter, fluffier pork rinds. I don't like the dense, like crunchy ones. So what I usually do is I save all of those dense, crunchy ones that are in the bottom, and I use those to make my breading, right, that we're gonna use for the chicken. So take a food processor. You could also use a mallet and crunch these up into little bitty dust. But I just take the food processor, and you're gonna just take the lid off of it. Very simple. Put your pork rinds in. Put these over here. May need a little more, but we'll try this for now. Like so. And then just pulse it. So the light's plugged into the same outlet as the food processor. So that's what it looks like lightning. Sorry about that. That should just about do it. Okay, so when you're done, you're going to have a consistency that looks like and acts like breadcrumbs. See that there? Right? Okay, so we're going to take these here, and we're going to dump these into our larger bowl. All right? So that takes care of that. Get this out of the way since it's kind of bulky and obnoxious. All right, so I have a chicken breast here. Now I'm using the thin cut chicken breast. I like the thin cut because that allows me to just do it in the skillet only. The thicker ones, you're probably gonna have to finish off in the oven because they'll take longer to cook, but that's fine. You can do those too. And if you have any questions about that, just let me know in the comments and I can help you out. But basically we're gonna do, in our larger bowl, we have our pork rinds acting as our breadcrumbs. And then we're gonna take one egg. Obviously, if you're doing several chicken breasts, you'll do more. I'll put this in the recipe down in the details below. But today I'm just doing one little chicken breast for myself, so I'm using one egg. I'm gonna crack that. Put that into our bowl. No shells. And then I'm going to get my whisk. And we're just gonna whisk this as if we were making scrambled eggs. All right, just give it a quick little whisk there, to where it looks about like that. All right. And that is really our setup. If you were gonna be making chicken parm or something else, this is where you could add Parmesan cheese to the pork rinds, just like you would with any other breadcrumbs or any other spices that you have, Italian seasoning, things like that. If you're making something with like General Tso's, you'd put your Chinese spices, whatever you're gonna be using would go into this at this point. For me today, since we're doing the buffalo chicken, I'm gonna have most of the flavor coming from the sauce. So all I'm gonna put on the actual chicken itself is just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. That's it. And from there, I'm gonna push these in. This is going to go into the egg mixture. I'm gonna get it good and mixed around here. And then I'm gonna transfer that directly over into the pork rinds, which are acting as our breadcrumbs. Now I know you can't really see inside the bowl, but I'm gonna show you here when I'm done what this is gonna look like. And you'll just wanna be sure to, like you would any other time you're putting breadcrumbs on something, just kind of pack it down, press them in so that they adhere firmly to the chicken. And the trick to doing this with the pork rinds, and probably with any breadcrumbs actually, but especially with the pork rinds I found, is to let this set for at least 10 minutes. That gives the pork rinds a good chance to really get good and stuck, and it won't come off when you're cooking it in the grease. All right, so it's gonna look like this when we're done. And like I said, we're just gonna put this on a piece of wax paper, piece of foil, whatever you have, and let that set for 10 minutes. Now, while this is gonna be setting for 10 minutes, I'm gonna change up views here, and we're gonna put our olive oil and butter onto heat so that this can transfer over and we can start to fry this up. All right, so I'll see you over there. Now, because it's just me today, we're gonna use the little blue skillet, little blue. I'm gonna put this here, and I'm gonna put my heat at about medium high, just to get it warmed up. Because we're only using one chicken breast since it's a party of one tonight, I'm gonna use about a tablespoon extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to use about a tablespoon of butter. There we go. Flip that over there. And I'm just gonna let this melt. Again, over medium high heat. Just kind of depends on your stovetop, your skillet. You just basically want to get this to where it's a nice bubbly consistency, but you don't want the butter to start browning before you put your chicken in. That way it doesn't give it that nasty burn taste. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this prep, and I'm gonna circle back on the other side, and we're gonna get our chicken going. This is bubbling and popping, ready to go. So we are going to go ahead and get our chicken that's been resting and put this little fella right into the oil and butter. And we're gonna let this go about 4 minutes per side. It's really great for the people who are a little nervous about frying, that you might burn it or it might not look right, because with the pork rinds being the color they are, it already has that kind of golden color, so you might be able to get away with cheating a little bit and no one will ever know. I'm gonna let this go on 4 minutes, maybe 4.5 per side, we'll see, maybe less. I'm not gonna bore you again with this whole process. I'll check in as it's cooking, and then we'll see where it goes from here. Now, depending on how many pieces of chicken you're doing, how big of a skillet you've got, and as things can get kind of crazy, as usual, I always have my little trusty splatter guard ready just in case. These things are a godsend. I use them all the time when I'm frying, cooking things on the stovetop. Just helps keep things easier. So far, though, this one is going okay. This has been about 4 minutes, so let's check and see how it's doing. A few pops up with the splatter guard on. Okay, that looks just about how we want it. I might have let it go on a little bit longer than it should have, but I just really want to err on the side of making sure that the chicken is cooked all the way through. It'll come out looking golden, but this part right here is a little darker than I'd like. But bottom line, this is fine. And also it's gonna have sauce on it in this particular recipe, so no big deal. Same with chicken parm when you're making that. This is just such a nice way, as I said before, of making things that are like breaded, but not really breaded. And I'm not kidding, you will be shocked when you taste how good it is. It tastes just like fried chicken breast, because let's face it, the naked chicken breasts get boring after a while. So I'm gonna let this go for about another 3-4 minutes. I'm gonna check the inside to make sure it's cooked all the way through, and then we're gonna finish up with the final steps. All right, I think this little guy is done. You'll see that you've got the golden brown on either side. Looks great. So I'm gonna move this over and start working on my dressings. Now, let us be clear. How you decide to dress your chicken wrap is how you decide to do it. I'll show you what I suggest, the toppings that are good, keep it low carb, but also very delicious. What I did was off camera for your benefit, because then you have places to be, I went ahead and cubed the chicken or diced it or however you want to say it, right? Cut it up, in other words. And this is what I do. I actually use a combination of Sweet Baby Ray's buffalo wing sauce and Sweet Baby Ray's hot sauce. I like both of them together. They're both kind of the same thing, but I don't know, I just like the combo. So what I do is I take a little bit of the wing sauce, maybe about a tablespoon or two, right? Probably a little bit less since it's just one serving. I'm used to doing for both of us, but for today it's just for me. And then a little bit of the hot sauce, just a few sprinkles, and it'll look like this, right? And then what I'm gonna do is just mix this around so that all the chicken gets covered, like so. All right, you can always add a little more later. Now, there's different varieties, of course, of the sauces, but just be careful because you don't want to have carb creep. As long as it shows 0 carbs, 1 carbs, something like that, you should be fine. So then what I do is I take my piece of lettuce. Today we're just using romaine, green leaf, whatever you want to use, cosmopolitan, all good. And I'm going to take my chicken, see if I can do this so that it's camera friendly and you can see. I put my chicken on first, like so, right? Then what I do is I use a little bit of cheese, a little bit of red onion, because as we know, carb creep is existent in those. I take a few halved cherry tomatoes, add those, and then a little bit of homemade ranch, which I have on my YouTube channel if you want to see how to make that. Could not be simpler. Okay, so then we're going to take this, literally put it together like so, and try a bite, and then you'll see my acting skills if it tastes bad, because I'm going to pretend like it tastes good regardless. Very good. Easy, easy. Like I said, easy for parties, for lunch, for really anything, just a snack. Could not be simpler. And also, keep in mind, this is what I do to keep it low carb with the lettuce wrap. You could easily modify this and use tortillas to do a typical wrap if you have carbivores in your family. That way, you can make something for them that they can have, and then you can make the low carb version for yourself. So I hope that you've enjoyed this recipe. I hope that you can get some use out of it. If you're liking what you see, please consider subscribing. If you like this video in particular, please let me know with a like. I really appreciate you guys checking it out, and I'll see you next time.